Hello friends, tonight we're going to take a look at the EOTech G33 Magnifier. In the Magnifier game, now it might be the king. When folks talk about magnifiers, most of the time they're really just discussing this one, aren't they? In case you're new to firearms, or denser than a lead pound cake, a magnifier is just what it looks like. It's a series of lenses in a tube that makes far stuff look close. Think of it as a pirate spyglass, only the pirates are 3%ers trying to find cheese doodles in a large plastic can at Costco, rather than privateers prowling for treasure-laden galleons on the Spanish Main. Magnifiers don't have reticles. Instead, they magnify the reticle and sight picture of the red dot or holographic sight that you pair them with. They have a fixed magnification, usually 3 power, though some have as much as 5 or more. One doesn't need to zero the magnifier, though you can adjust where the reticle is located within the magnifier. Generally, these come on a swinging mount, though not all do. The idea is that you push the magnifier out of the way when not in use, and push it up, in place, when you do want to use it. They often have QD mounts, making them very easy to remove entirely from the gun. I've noticed that magnifiers are polarizing, and understandably so. They're heavy and cumbersome, but also useful. You either swear by them or you hate them so much that they give you the fucking willies. The argument for them is this. They make it so much easier to get hits at longer distances while still retaining all of the benefits of your EOTech or red dot at close range. The magnifier also makes target identification easier. When not required, it's out of the way, and since most of them have a QD mount, just take it off of the gun if they're blocking too much of your view. The argument against them is that they are way too large and heavy, and they take up too much space on the gun. That is an entirely valid argument. Magnifiers are almost always heavy, and the EOTech is no exception. The only folks who claim that the weight of one's AR-15 doesn't matter are those douchebag with 10-pound guns loaded with CAC rails who believe in QAnon and Pizzagate but wheeze on their way to the kitchen. That or they wheeze because they refuse to wear a COVID mask. Weight and maneuverability matter. If I had the money for a 4-pound V7 AR, you bet your ass I'd own one. You see, I'm one of those douchebags who's always searching for the lightest gun, but that's its own folly, and we'll discuss that another day. So, if the G33 adds a ton of weight, are the benefits worth the trade? Well, that's really what this video is about. Features. The EOTech G33 is a 3-power magnifier. It weighs 11.9 ounces and is 3.9 inches long. The magnifier sits behind your optic and is, of course, the perfect height for EOTech holographic sights. Go figure. I have my G33 paired with my EOTech EXPS32, and that's my favorite of the EOTech optics. When not in use, the G33 swings to the side on this very robust hinge. The G33 is attached to an EOTech QD mount. These are my favorite mounts. They're really excellent. If you want to remove it, just push in here and pull the lever. Off it comes. To put it back on, push the lever in to tighten the mount against the rail. That's all you have to do. I've had trouble finding info on what the G33 is made of, but it's aluminum. Past that, I have no clue. Maybe it's 6061 T6, but that's just speculation. These knobs here, they don't zero the magnifier. Instead, they adjust where your image is located. In other words, they let you move your reticle that you're magnifying. This has no bearing on the zero of your optic. You can adjust it so that the reticle is in the top left corner of the magnifier, and the round is still going to hit where the reticle is pointing. A rubber sleeve protects the G33 and also makes it easier to grab and flip the thing with wet hands. The mount is affixed to the optic with these screws inside. I've seen folks reverse the magnifier on the mount and flip it around to make the arm swing to the left rather than the right. That makes it handy for left-handers, of course. Otherwise, if you're a lefty, when you swing this out, that's very much in the way, isn't it? So why should you choose this magnifier? Or hell, why should you choose a magnifier at all? Well, this is for now my favorite magnifier on the market. The Vortex, Trijicon, Aimpoint, and others are great. You can't go wrong with any of them. As a result, I'm not going to do an in-depth comparison. If you like one far more than the EOTech, just get that one. To me, though, the EOTech has the best glass, tied with the Aimpoint, though I don't like the Aimpoint mount as much. Also, some of those other magnifiers are lighter, but they're made in China in some cases, but still, that lightness might matter to you. Now let's discuss magnifiers in general. If you're shooting inside of 100 yards and only inside of 100 yards, just save the weight. Stick an MRO or RMR on your gun and enjoy how awesomely maneuverable it is. But for 200 yards plus, the weight of the magnifier starts to make a little more sense. Magnifiers are best paired with holographic sights. When you magnify a red dot with a 3 power, you're making that dot 3 times larger, and it can get a little weird. With the holographic EOTech, though, the dot remains 1 MOA relative to the target as both get larger. As a result, I don't like magnified red dots very much. Not a fan, though you may find them to be more useful than I do. The other comparable setups are an LPVO, either solo or with an RMR, or an ACOG coupled with RMR. Those setups, like the EOTech combo, allow you to hit things at a distance or close up, but the difference is that the LPVO or ACOG arrangements favor shooting at a distance while still allowing you to make close range shots if you need to. The EOTech combo, on the other hand, it favors closer shots with the added capability to magnify your target and shoot at longer distances. So you're sort of deciding what the primary function of the gun is and then choosing an optic based on that. Between the LPVO and EOTech setting, the weight is about equal. We're talking 20 to 24 ounces most of the time. Fucking heavy. And both change the handling characteristics of your gun for the worse. I don't like the way LPVOs look on 1 power. It's like you're separated from the reality of the image you're viewing. It's sort of freaky and uncanny, like you're using the scope to peer into an alternate dimension that is almost exactly like our own, but not quite. The scope dimension, where colors are just a little bit off. We aren't in the grips of a global pandemic. The economy isn't taking a dump, and the president isn't a sentient hotel mob. Really, the scope dimension sounds like a better place. Maybe I should just live there instead. But the longer you look at it, the more unnerving the scope dimension becomes. Up is down and down is up. The doctor pays you and the horses ride people. You may not want to stay in the scope dimension for too long, lest you be stuck there permanently. You might find that the uncanny quality slows you down just a little bit, and let's not forget, you still have to remember to change the magnification in the moment. And I'm an idiot. I'm not going to be able to remember to do that. And you don't want to raise the LPVO to your shoulder and see your attacker's blurry crotch magnified 6 times when you expected no magnification at all. So for me, an offset RMR coupled with the LPVO is the better option. It's faster and removes as much of my natural stupidity as possible. It kind of removes a lot of the problems with the LPVO and makes it a more competitive option up close for me. You get noticeably less magnification with the G33 than you do with newer LPVOs. Same thing for the ACOG. You're really stuck at 3 or 4 power or less. But this switches so damn fast. And it's very apparent whether or not the optic will be magnified when you look through it. You won't be surprised there like you might be with an LPVO. But you really see the biggest advantages from the holographic sight out to 200 yards. Unmagnified holographic sights are super fast while having a less busy reticle. LPVO reticles are just too fucking complicated for me. I feel like I'm trying to read a fucking schematic or something. No thank you. And since the EOTech is providing that awesome performance out to 200 yards, then you add the magnifier and then you're adding a couple hundred yards to that performance. That's really awesome. Comparing the EOTech combo to the ACOG and RMR combo, though, is a little tougher, though the ACOG still favors longer distances, of course. But as with the LPVO and RMR setup, it's still plenty fast up close, though less precise than the EOTech combo and still not quite as fast. Holographic sights, they're just stupid fast up close. The offset RMR just can't quite compare with the EOTech window and reticle up close. But at longer distances, the ACOG wins. It beats the hell out of the magnifier. There's just no comparison. The G33 has a minuscule field of view next to the almost panoramic majesty of the ACOG. And that Trigicon glass, God, it's so clear. It's larger than life. Nothing compares. So it depends on your needs. If you need a super lightweight gun for short distances, go with a solo red dot. For versatility, favoring short to medium distances, you want to go with the EOTech and G33 combo. For medium-long distances, the ACOG is still king, even after all this time. Also worth noting, EOTech has new models hitting the market later this year. We're going to talk a bit more about those in a little bit. So, how has the G33 performed? Well, it's been flawless. What'd you expect? It's lenses in an aluminum tube. There's not much that can go wrong here. But you can see from the marks and nicks on it that it's had some falls. But no harm done. Reliability isn't really a concern at all here. The mount is excellent. I was worried that the hinge and this ledge would kind of wear from me flipping the magnifier hard, but it's not showing any signs of trouble. The EOTech QD mounts are some of the best I've seen. They are truly quick to detach. This can be removed in about a second, and it locks down very securely. Up top, these knobs feel nice. It was very easy to get the reticle centered. Took me 5 to 10 seconds. This rubbery sleeve is nice and grippy. You won't have any trouble gripping the magnifier and flipping it over. But what about the glass? We're really here for the glass, aren't we? Well, first, the not so good. The eye relief is short. It's not a problem, but it gives you less control over where you can place the magnifier. But the eye box is very forgiving, and as long as you can see the reticle of the optic you're magnifying, you can get hits. And you've got this little turny doodle here to focus up if you need to. Also, the field of view is decent. It's not awesome, but it's fine. Maybe I'm too used to the ACOG, which has an absolutely massive field of view, but the G33 is fine. It's just fine. But the tube is so thick in my periphery that it gives me toilet paper tube vision. Again, something the ACOG never does. While the eye relief and field of view are okay, the quality of the glass is fan-fucking-tastic. The ACOG is larger than life with super bright colors, while the G33 is incredibly realistic and neutral. Colors are represented accurately, the light and shade look clear and sharp, movement stands out well, and the reticle is presented precisely with very little halo around it. I love the way the glass looks. It's great. Because the image is so neutral, you don't get as much eye fatigue looking through it. You don't with the ACOG either, but you definitely do with cheaper optics. Also, there isn't much edge distortion. Almost the whole image is useful. Shooting with the magnifier is just fucking fun. That's the best description I can give. It's a pleasure to use, and I love using it. Snapping the G33 in and out of place is satisfying, and I enjoy practicing with it on the move at the range. The reticle looks so crisp and clear, I never want to stop with it when I take it out. The magnifier is great for identifying targets inside of 200 or 300 yards, but coupled with this particular EOTech, I've been able to make some very long shots with this, or relatively long shots for a holographic sight. My sight is the EXPS32, the 2 indicating that my reticle has a second 1 MOA elevation dot below the center one. The dot lets me more easily use holdovers, and the magnifier lets me push the distance farther than I expected. Using these two optics on a different gun, a 16-inch pencil barrel, I was able to get hits at 600 yards once I found my hold. Yes, I'm serious. Keep in mind, I had to walk them in. That wasn't the first, second, or third shot, but it could be done. You can do it with a plain old red dot too if you walk them in, but the magnifier made it so much more possible. It was still tough, but it seemed far more doable when you could launch around, watch it hit through the magnifier, and then adjust. Shooting steel out to 400 is easy, and out to 300, you just put the dot on the steel and fire. It'll connect every time if you do your part. Or if you're me and you suck, it'll connect when you get lucky. But I wish there was more magnification. 3 power is still plenty useful, but as the 8 and 10 power LPVOs show us, more power can help with identification and make certain shots easier and faster to take, even with good old 5.56. The magnifier is very heavy, and it can get in the way. It's this big hunk of shit that hangs off the side of your gun. It blocks your vision, it gets hung on stuff, and it makes the gun sluggish in tight spaces. For some folks, that's a deal breaker. In use, though, a solution immediately presented itself. Take the fucking thing off the gun. What sort of satanic magic is this, you ask? Well, it just fucking comes right off. Use the QD mount. Take that fucker off the gun. Stash it in a pouch and then put it back on if you need it. Simple. What would I change about the G33? Well, this magnifier is way too heavy. Weight is the classic EOTech problem. They build everything huge and heavy in a world of micro red dots. As a result, EOTech products often feel a bit antiquated, and using the QD feature to remove the magnifier doesn't change that. Adding almost 12 ounces of magnifier very much changes the way your gun handles for the worse. Also, the tube is just long. Though that isn't as much of a problem for me. I don't use backup irons on any gun, so I don't really care. As big as the G33 is, though, I really wish it offered more magnification as a trade-off for that size and weight. EOTech needs to cut the weight by about half, like Trijicon did with their magnifier. The only problem with the Trijicon is it's made in China, which is very unfortunate. Notice that I didn't criticize the price of the G33. Quality costs money. At $450 to $500, the G33 isn't a bad deal for a great mount and great glass built to a high standard. Earlier I mentioned that EOTech is releasing new models. These fix the problems that I mentioned here. They're releasing a 5-power model, and I'm very interested in it for my Aero M5. The G43 is a shorter version of the G33, substantially shorter, but it weighs the same. What the fuck? That's just very, very odd. EOTech, you've got to make this shit a little bit lighter. If you like my work, please consider supporting me on Patreon. In the midst of COVID, with the present ammo shortage, long-term endurance testing is more expensive than ever, and your support keeps me at the range testing guns. In addition to keeping me at the range, your support also gets you access to the TGP Discord server, where we talk about all kinds of gun shit, in addition to movies, video games, and assorted other stuff. So, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and back to the show. Final thoughts. Though it has some problems, the EOTech G33 is a great product, arguably the best, or at least one of the best of its kind. It's big, heavy, and expensive with outstanding glass. It'll help you get better hits at longer distances. Really, the EXPS and Magnifier combo is not any heavier than an LPVO, and possibly faster, but it might be more inconvenient than the LPVO. If you're looking for a versatile optics combo, this is one that you should at least consider, and try it if you can, though. You need to know if the benefits will outweigh the considerable problems for your particular needs and taste. For me, they do. I love this combo, and I use it often. For me, the G33 has been just the right thing. It's there when I need it, it comes right off when I don't, and it sure does look cool. But it's not a do-all. I still use my ACOG, I still use my RMRs, and I still use a lot of MROs. This is just one solution available. I've spent a lot of time talking to many of you on Discord and in the comments. Based on what you tell me, I think this is probably the right combo for some of y'all as well. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I'll talk to you soon. Good night.